Sputzerman 945 here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I am going to be doing my overview of everything that I watched in the anime season of winter 2025. Um, so yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. I have kind of like a format for how I'm gonna do these videos from now on. The fall one last year, it was the very first one I did, so it was a little bit disorganized. But this one, I'm gonna have like a full on format here. So, um, in terms of shows, I'll start with shows that were continuing from last season. Um, we had Orb and Daima, which all I'm gonna say is I love both those shows. Both of them finished. Made separate videos about both those shows. Um, ReZero, the second core of season 3 aired this season. That was very good. Um, Even though this was a shorter season, I very, very much enjoyed it. Extremely emotion packed, very high octane, very high action, super intense. A lot of things going on, but never necessarily felt overwhelming. Great season. Now in terms of Trillion Game, um, it continued really well. I really enjoyed it. The only thing that I didn't really like personally is I felt like the ending to Trillion Game felt really rushed. Like it was just like, okay, they made success in the news industry, and then boom, cuts a couple years later when they're like the newest billionaires. And it's not awful, but like I wanted more, I guess, but it's also like not the worst thing of all time. I really enjoyed the show overall, and it was a really fun experience watching week to week. Um, so that's all the stuff for the continuing show. In terms of what I actually watched that aired this season, I'm actually gonna go over the shows I dropped first. I end up dropping three different shows. I dropped a show called Momentary Lily because I tried watching an episode, maybe the first two episodes, and um, it was really weird and had really strange animation. Apparently, it's a Gohan show, which I've heard is not the best of animation studios. I just not enjoy it. I ended up dropping a romance called Madaka Kuroiwa is impervious to my charms, which just because I watched the first episode and I found it kind of boring. It was just not for me. And then another kind of romance. I think this show showed me that I just am not a fan of harems, reverse or normal, because apparently that's what this show was, a reverse harem. Um, I talked about it a bit in one of the previous, I think in the anime tropes tier list, I mentioned it, but anyway, I'm falling in love with you. It seemed like it was going somewhere by like really developing the relationship between the girl and one dude, and then it just kept like meandering and focusing on other dudes. And I watched like 6 episodes of it weekly, and there was like nothing happening at all. Um, Now, in terms of actually shows that I did watch, first one up is a Meku MD, which still has one more episode. It probably would have been done by now, but for some reason, with this particular show, it's done a weird, like, release schedule where some weeks it didn't have an episode. I don't know what the deal was with that, but that has one more episode. Well, I just watched the 11th episode today. Um, but this was a fun show. It was really interesting. It was like a mystery show, but like centered around a doctor investigating medical cases. And even though they had like the disclaimer about it, like not about like certain things like medically wise, like not being realistic, it seemed like it was based off some pretty realistic like medical type things to me. Um, but of course I wouldn't know anything about that. I'm a history major, not a doctor. Um, but that show was fun. I think the biggest issue with the Meku MD is probably the fact that um it tended to take itself too seriously at times. And I think when it did that, it was just it kind of lost me a bit. Um, but otherwise, when it just stuck to the mystery aspect, it was a fun. Okay, sorry about that. I had to check something. Okay, next up in the list, we had Solo Leveling Season 2. This was a really, really good season. Um, I'm not like a crazy huge Solo Leveling fan. Like, I enjoyed Season 1 for what it was. I think this second season was actually a lot better. I think this one was actually a lot more entertaining, and it felt like a lot more interesting stuff happened. Um, A1 Pictures absolutely fucking hooked with the animation. There were some fights in this season. They look incredible. Like, obviously, the obvious example is Jinwoo versus their room, but there were a lot of really good fights in this season that were really entertaining. The episode where Jin Woo finally got to heal his mom as like a reward for the hard work that he put into it. That was really nice. It was a great episode. Really nice like character focused thing. Um, right there did not deserve to get as downvoted as it did by all those like fucking brain rotted voicers. That was a great episode in particular. I really enjoyed this season. Um, Honey Lemon Soda was a it, if I'm being honest, like especially by the finale, it was kind of your extremely generic high school romance, um, which which had a very pretty art style, and character designs, but like it was just it was really generic. Uh I'm kind of surprised I didn't end up deciding to drop it like halfway through, but like I don't know. I thought the ending in particular was like really generic because um it was all the there was just like the typical confession scene, then like nothing after that. So, I mean, it was fine. I would give it like a 6 out of 10. Um, but nothing crazy, honestly. Apothecary Diary Season 2. So this is something that is going to continue airing into the spring season, so I will be talking about it when I make my spring season video. But Apothecary Diary Season 2 so far has been fantastic. It has been everything that I wanted to see. We are getting so so teased with all the Jinchi and Mao Mao stuff. And I'm really enjoying how this season in particular seems to be digging a lot more into Jinchi's character, whereas the first season was so Mao Mao focused. I really like that this one is focusing a lot more on Jinchi and kind of that relationship building up. Also, it's interesting to be learning all these details about like the previous emperor because it's like learning about the mystery aspect in a different way, which I really been really enjoying. Um, so yeah, that's been great so far, and I think it will continue to be peak. Guild Receptionist. That is my shortened version of the much longer title, which I don't even know if I can remember off it was something like I may be a guild receptionist, but I'll solo bosses to clock out on time. It was something like that. Um, which uh, I was drawn to this show because it just sounded like it had a really funny premise, and that it definitely did. This show was very, very fun. I enjoyed it a good amount. Nothing more, nothing crazy, but it was a very, very funny show that I think worked the best when it really played into the gag of that premise. Um, and also like the fight animation when Alina fights the bosses. It's great because it's just Cloverworks just unnecessarily flexing with insane animation quality. Like way too good for this kind of show. Um, but it also kind of has this little interesting fantasy intrigue with like the skills and whatnot. Um, I would say by far the biggest issue with this show, um, similar to a Meku MD, but on a bigger scale, I think, is this show takes itself way too seriously a lot of the time. Like, um, for some reason, it tries to go for like sad shit with some of the side characters, and it just tries to seem like darker and higher stakes than it actually is, and it kind of like disrupts the tone of it. So, um, when it does that, it isn't as good. But when it's not trying to be overly serious and actually sticking to the normal comedic premise, it was a fun time and extremely funny. Now the last show is Sakamoto Days. I really enjoyed Sakamoto Days. I will have you know. Obviously, this is just the first core. The second core is in summer, I believe. But I really enjoyed the idea. I thought it had great animation. I don't know, like, why manga elitists were complaining so much. I thought it was great. Well, I haven't read the manga, admittedly. I've heard the manga has some crazy panels in it, but I thought the animation was really good. Um, I don't get the complaints. Um, and yeah, I liked all the characters. I thought it was a really fun premise and just a fun chill time. It was an extremely funny show. Super, super fun. Had a lot of fantastic gags, and I watched it in dub because it was being simulcast that way, and the dub was really great. And I totally lied when I said the last show I watched was Sakamoto Days because I was saving this other show till last, and in doing so, I nearly forgot to even fucking mention it. But my show of the season. It's not even close. And honestly, I know it's so early in the year, but this show is already one of my contenders for anime of the year. That is Zenshu. Holy shit. Zenshu was fucking incredible. I had to resist such an urge to make a separate video about it because I like these videos to be like all encompassing and stuff. So now there's going to be the rest of this video that is going to be sheer Zenshu glazing because it was genuinely that great. Um so first off, you cannot talk about this show without pointing out the irony that Nappa, of all the studios, was the one that made an anime original show about an overworked animator. Um, I would really like to think that that means that Mappa as a company has learned from what happened with JJK season 2 and the animators being overworked, but I guess we'll find out. What is very clear in terms of the animation, speaking of, is that there is so much passion put into this project. It is like gleaming, it is glowing, burning with passion in the animation. Like the art style and the sequences are so colorful and so vivid. It is beautiful to look at. Like I honestly, even though the show's over, I could go back and just over and over on fucking repeat watch that like transformation sequence that plays in almost every episode where he like um gets ready to draw shit with the peg bar. Oh my god, that was so beautiful. Oh, um, and the ultimate idea of it was so interesting as well. Not not a single damn ounce of me. And it did a good job hiding this with just like the basic descriptions that I read. But in no universe did I expect this shit to be an isekai. And a really fucking good one at that. It introduces a pretty interesting fantasy world like like within the tale of perishing that Natsuko gets isekai to. Um, but every single character is so fun, has so much personality. Not Natsuko and Luke's relationship and romance is absolutely fantastic. The character development between those two is just fantastic, and it's so interesting to see like what happens with how Natsuko changes the timeline each time. Um and especially with like the way that the voids end up becoming like her drawing. Like that was a crazy twist. And man, the emotions were so high in this. Like when Luke ended up destroying the soul future regardless. Oh my god, I was so tense and but oh it was so um and I love the charm of all the. I probably didn't get even close to understanding all the references, but I did get a few. And this is what I was kind of talking about with like the passion behind it. All the references in Natsuko's drawings, even the ones I didn't end up understanding, they were great. Um it was such a amazing idea, amazing world, amazing characters, beautiful animation. Like, it fucking boggles my mind to hell how this show only has a 7.5 on Mal. That fucking blows my mind because this is already gonna be in my top 10 anime for the year. If not top 5. I'm not gonna say top 5 yet because this seems like a really fucking stacked year for anime. But I'm gonna say this is already in my top 10 for the year, and I will let you know, guys know in an update for another one of these seasonal videos if that happens to change. Um, but so far, man, I gotta say, like, um, Zenshu was just such an incredible show. That just absolutely blew me out of the water. Easily my pick for number one anime of the season in winter 2025. But yeah, that's gonna go for this video. Expect this to kind of be the format going forward in terms of how I made it. But yeah, it's 11 o'clock at night. I'm really fucking tired. I'm gonna go to bed soon. Thank you very much for watching this seasonal roundup, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.